Dead people are dead.
Danvers. No, there's no heaven. There's no hell.
All right, Patrick Klepek, I have a bunch of thoughts on True Detective Part 4 of Night Country. Before I get into them, though, like I just want to kind of quick gut check. Did you like this episode? Do you like Part 4 of True Detective Night Country?
I did, but I'm worried. Is where I think where I'd say I'm where I'm at.
I liked it. I thought it was a solid episode. But what is remarkable, I think, is to witness the internet like turning on this show in a really big way. I've seen a bunch of memes. I don't know why these delight me so much. Like, we have to say, both Patrick Klepek and I were on board for the show. We like the show. But I can see a lot of people do not like the show.
Yeah.
I think for some legitimate reasons. And I've seen a lot of memes about the show. And what they do is there's a funny bit of text on social media, and then they'll play a video clip of Donald Trump saying something. So here is one post that I saw online. Somebody said, here's the post. It's like, me. I hope True Detective Night Country starts improving this week. And then True Detective Night Country says this.
I became worse. I became worse.
Okay, here's another one. This is Fitz SGN posted this. Me after every episode of True Detective Night Country.
We have to figure out what's going on. There's something going on, and it's bad. There's a problem. There's something wrong. Something's going on. We've got to figure out what's going on. Bomb. We have to find out what's going on. I called the mayor. I said, what's going on? What's going on?
And it goes on for another like 30 seconds after that. Anyway, I don't know why I found this to be so funny, but people, really don't seem to be liking this show. Now, there's a lot of defenders of the show, and a lot of critics love the show. Part 4 is great because it's like, if it was its own short film, I would say that's a really solid short film because it shows how freaking miserable everyone in Ennis, Alaska is in their own way, right? Like, everyone is having the worst Christmas ever. It just seems horrible and sad and brutal. And Patrick Klepek, I know you and I are both fans of that kind of material.
Yes. It wallows. It
wallows. This is one that wallows. And what's great about it is, like, the show has done a good job of setting up how different and specific each person's misery is, right?
Yes.
Prior senior got catfished by a mail order bride.
Brutal.
Prior junior is working for one of the worst assholes alive, and also like having a talk with his wife about how she didn't want to get pregnant in the first place. Navarro's sister is offing herself in a very sad, lonely way. Navarro herself reacts poorly and gets the shit beat out of her. And Danvers gets drunk and then, kind of gets criticized by the person who she's in a situationship with, her boss who she's in a situationship with. Before they all go, Navarro and Danvers go off to the dredges and have a spooky confrontation with this guy who helped them map the original cave system, Otis. And everyone's Christmas really kind of sucks in their own way, and it's like, oh, love that. Now, the problem with that, Patrick Klepek, is I feel like we're at the end of episode 4. We're like 2/3 of the way through the show, and we have come basically no closer to solving the central mystery of what happened here, in my opinion. Obviously, they found this guy, and like, he's probably going to have some more answers, but like, I totally understand anyone who is just completely has jumped off the train at this point, because it's like, what is even going on? Why do we care about any of the stuff that's happening? The show is basically just vibes at this point. Now, you and I love the vibes, but like the mystery stuff, pretty iffy. What do you think, Patrick Klepek?
Well, yes. I actually, one of the explicit notes I wrote down was vibes versus storytelling.
Yes.
And I think this episode, especially, or just not even just this episode in particular. I think it is just being 4 episodes into a series where you're being patient, trying to figure out where you align with the show, with the show's priorities. And I think for a not unsizable amount of people, like the show is continuing on a track that I think it's been since the beginning, but others were wondering, is it going to change direction? Like, where is it going to go? Especially for a 6-episode series. It's not like it's that long. There's not that much time to waste. And it's luxuriating. Like, it's vibing with a place, with an atmosphere, with these characters, with a certain kind of sadness and a certain kind of darkness. And if none of that works for you, and if what you're here for is there's symbols and like what happened at the station, so I don't. It's not as though I don't think the show will have answers. Like whether those answers are satisfying is different. I do not think the show is going to end without providing an answer to what happened. I do not think you will get to the end of Night Country without an explanation for how we arrived here, even if there is ambiguity left on, the nature of like spirituality and like the history of a place. I think there'll be ambiguity there, but I think this will have a sort of concrete what happened and how we got from A to Z. But it's taking its sweet time to get there. And so I understand the frustration. That said, I've been in media a very long time. There becomes a moment where it becomes profitable to just start bullying a show. And this show has now become a very popular punching bag. And it now is difficult to tell the difference between legitimate grievances over the storytelling decisions in a show that are tied up in now, as we talked about Westworld, like there is nostalgia for the first season of True Detective that is separate from your actual appreciation of like the storytelling and what happened in that show because the natural passage of time. And I think that has gotten wound up in a media environment. And I work in media. It's very difficult. You're looking for any reason to get people to click on stories. And Night Country has just become this strange punching bag that gets a lot of clicks, especially on Twitter. And I just, to some degree, I cannot separate that it's become popular to hate this show from what are people actually upset about in the show and how much of it is a bandwagon effect where now it's just fun to make fun of the show. And I think those are all intertwined with what is, at the end of the day, I think you and I would agree with, legitimate grievances about the storytelling, absent knowing where it all ends up. I can understand people feeling a little strung out because there's just if you were to add up what's happened over 4 episodes, it's not a lot.
Yeah. I think, ironically, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, a show we just talked about, a show that we think would have benefited from a weekly release schedule, honestly, because it would have felt like more time has elapsed between some of these major relationship milestones.
Yeah.
This show, True Detective Night Country, probably a show that would not nearly be as criticized if they released them all at once. Now,
I agree.
That said, Patrick Klepek and I have not seen the final 2 episodes yet, but a lot of the critics who have really praised the show. And so it's like, I assume they got to the end and thought it was worth praising and recommending. So, but yeah, as is, it really does feel like they're stretching this thing out, which I don't think it would be the experience if you watched, like we could have watched all 6 episodes in one day and it would be like, oh, that was a great, interesting story, but right now it feels like, where is this thing going? Where is this mystery going? So, let's see, anything to highlight specifically about this episode? I mean, I've already said, like, I just love how miserable everyone is, and the show does a good job of like establishing that milieu. But there's also like some nice tender moments. Kavik, Navarro's quote unquote boyfriend, I guess, does a good job of comforting her after she's just had one of the roughest nights of her life. By the way, Navarro cleans up super nice, I have to say. Like literally, like bleeding, has like a gash in her, probably internal organs are ruptured. Like shows up at Danvers' place with like a little like tiny like circles under her eyes. Like okay. But I thought that Danvers Navarro confrontation was appropriately awkward, where Danvers is like, we're all like, after we die, there's nothing. There's no one. We're all alone on this planet. And not knowing that Navarro's sister has died right there, like right the night before.
Well, she's taken aback in a really. It's when she finds out that
Yeah.
her sister is gone. I took like Danvers goes into a very sensitive sort of motherly sort of role, like the kind of softer side that we have really only seen when she's been around
Yes.
small children.
That's right.
And it's a moment where she is so taken aback by a piece of news that this icy wall that she has, this facade that she puts up to deal with the entire world, because she probably just needs to go to therapy, like immediately disappears. And she just becomes a person in a way that we don't get much of a window to in the rest of the episode. I do think like some of that maybe like helps explain people's inability to connect with this show. You can't really like see yourself in, you know what I mean? Like Danvers is a deeply unlikable protagonist. Like, and there is just very few ways for you to sort of, often a show, like even when they have sort of assholes at their center, they find ways to like see a certain side of them. It's like, oh, okay.
Well,
like, I
well,
see.
typically they're really skilled. They're like
Yeah.
Dr. House or Walter White or whatever.
You can admire them for other reasons. And
what is clear is Danvers is a good detective. Like that is clear. The problem is that there's just not that much detective work that has occurred on the show, right? Like that's the problem, I think. But I don't know. I think I think it's given us enough. Like, you know, is she less likable than like Tony Soprano or Walter White? I don't know, man. Like, I think it's like,
I agree.
It's probably pretty close. It's probably pretty close.
I
is
agree.
What I would say.
I agree.
But yes, she is clearly an asshole. Like she's meant to be an asshole. Making her like underling work on Christmas Eve, terrible.
I guess the difference is with like Bryan Cranston's performance or like there's a certain charismatic asshole that Jodie Foster does not play here. I think like she's not like a like it's not a funny asshole. She just makes you feel bad, and like that's fine. Like it works for me. I am into this character and Foster's performance, but I do think that part of that speaks to like as an audience member, like what's your way if you're desiring a way in, like I think there are fewer of those with her by choice. And I think you start adding up all these other sort of understandable frustrations if certain things aren't working for you, that you arrive at this place. I mean, I'll even say as someone that's enjoying the vibes, like I'm tired of seeing the fucking circles, like another thing with the circle. Okay. You know, even I'm tired of the symbol at this point, but I may feel differently by the end. I'm so with you on this being a show that should have done all at once or two at once. Like I think it is really like its construction it's fine for me, but I think for a lot of people and just how the way the story was constructed probably would have benefited from getting to the end faster so people can decide sooner like how they feel about it, because instead now it's just like every week people are lining up to hate watch Night Country is like the vibe you get if you go on social media, which is not like, you know, I will say like I don't know if I've seen the numbers for this week, but this show has followed a model that HBO often sees with its shows. And it's the reason they do the episode by episode drop, which is like the numbers for the first episode kept going up and up and up as people got more interested in what was happening. And so, you know, how much of this is you and I being too online? And it's like, we see these things and how representative is this of the average person watching Night Country? I don't know.
I'll say this about it, which is I don't see much discussion of it other than in that context. You know, like with a show that has an extremely passionate fandom, you'd see like tons of conversation, of which some small part of it is people like hating it. But like the majority of posts I see about it are about how bad it is. So take that for what you will. You know, like it leads me to believe it's perhaps more representative than it would be for another show where I see similar criticism. You know. So anyway, all that said, you know, we end the episode with Navarro having like a ruptured ear of some kind, ruptured eardrum perhaps. They're chasing after Otis, not Clark, who's the missing guy from the Salal research facility. We don't even know what happened there. So more spooky mysteries. And that's where we end the episode. So Yeah.
I enjoyed the tense vibes of that entire final sequence. Like it's all that stuff. And what I'll say, at least for me, I can't speak for everyone else watching this show, but it seems like we're trending in the direction of more of that for the final two. I feel like we're about to get into a little more haunted house in Night Country, and I'm here for it. Hey
everyone, David Chen here. Thank you so much for watching that video from Decoding TV. If you want to get an audio version of the show, all you got to do is go to podcast.decodingtv.com. And if you want to support what we do, get ad-free episodes of the podcast and also bonus episodes of the podcast, go to decodingtv.com and become a paid member. Of course, you can also like and subscribe for more. We appreciate it. Thanks. See you later.